People use their homes to stay dry from the rain, to stay warm when it's winter time, right?
And to sleep.
And to protect us from animals or, and we even have a place to keep our food. Where do we keep our food in our home?
The refrigerator.
Yeah. Okay.
We also have to get water in here.
Good. There's actually an animal in this book that has built their home around water because they need water. So this book is called And So They Build. I want to tell you a little bit about the structure of the book before we start reading it. Each page has a beautiful illustration showing the animal and the structure that it built. I keep saying structure instead of home because this particular bird isn't building a home. It's pretty neat. This bird, we'll read about in a minute, is actually building this in order to attract a mate. They don't live in this at all. It's just, he's just showing off how good he is at building this. Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
These birds, they built something really neat. So the structure of the book though is there's an illustration on the page on the right and then there's text on the left. So we'll take
What is that?
That's a great question. Over here, this text is going to explain what this is, why an animal built that. Not just one animal, but thousands of animals worked really hard to build this. And there's a particular reason. There's a reason why it's shaped that way too. Take a look at some of these pictures.
That looks like a net or something.
It does look like a net. Sometimes animals build their homes function as a tool for catching their meals. Can you think of an animal that might build something that helps them catch their meals?
Spiders.
Yeah.
We have a spider right out our window.
I know.
But the only problem is, it's not like our home. Like it's just outside.
Check out that spider web. That's a different kind, isn't it?
Yeah, well, whatever. You know what? That looks like the spider. That feels like the spider in the second Harry Potter movie.
Oh yeah, Aragog. All right, so let's go ahead and start reading. There's the animal that builds.
I think that's a beaver.
It is a beaver.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and start reading. One of the things I really like about this book is the vocabulary in it. So at times I'll just explain what a word means, but at other times we'll see if we can figure it out, the meaning of the word just from the text around it. That's called using context clues. All right. A male satin bowerbird is looking for a mate, and so he builds. So this is a bowerbird. Satin bowerbirds live in the rainforests of eastern Australia. When the male is ready to attract a mate, he clears a site in dappled sunlight and shade on the forest floor. Dappled would mean like spotted sunlight. Like there's some sunlight, but it's not in the blazing sun or in the solid shade. Dappled. Then he builds a bower of sticks and decorates the ground with whatever bright objects he can find. Parrot feathers, shells, flowers, fruits, leaves, and even scraps of cloth.
Cloth? What's cloth?
Cloth. Like clothing. If there's people nearby, he might tear off some cloth, right?
I don't see any cloth in there.
I don't either. But they're just suggesting that that's something that people have seen or have noticed. Isn't that funny though? This is all just for decoration. It's like he's creating this piece of artwork. Most of the objects are blue, and the bowerbird often paints the inside walls with the blue juice of berries too. He carpets the open end of his bower with twigs making a stage on which he will perform his courtship dance. If his efforts attract a female satin bower bird, she will enter his bower and wait inside to mate with him. Then the two birds will desert the bower for a nest built by the female in a tree nearby. So the female bird builds the nest that they are going to, that she'll lay the eggs in, and then babies will be born. But the male builds this, what's called a bower. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
The point they're making. I think you pronounce these mallee. Mallee fowl are preparing for a brood, and so they build. Wait. The name of the book is And So They Build. And on this page, it said, and so he builds. This one says, and so they build. Do you think maybe that's a pattern?
Yeah.
It is.
Because it says build and in each one.
Very good. There's like repeating words. What do you think a brood is?
I don't know.
The mallee fowl are preparing for a brood.
Food?
Food rhymes with brood. I'll tell you, brood actually means a family of that type of bird.
Oh.
So it's what's called a collective noun. That means like a bunch of the same thing. A bunch of these birds would be called a brood.
And I think they have 4 eyes.
That could be an ear behind the eye. So, mallee fowl live in the arid, that means dry, eucalyptus woodlands of Australia. In winter, the male mallee fowl will dig a pit about 3 feet deep and heap
3 deep. 3 feet deep?
to the top of your desk at school. That's how deep they dig. So they'll dig a pit about 3 feet deep and heap it high with vegetation. Vegetation would be like plant life, sticks and leaves and stuff. Now this is pretty neat. Listen to this. They fill it with vegetation. Once it has been dampened by the winter rains, dampened, what do you think dampened means?
They gone lower?
No, that once it has been dampened by the winter rains, what would rain do?
Make it wet?
Yep. So dampen actually means wet. Once it has gotten wet, once it has been dampened by the winter rains, he covers it with a mound of sand to rot and build up heat. What does it mean for something to rot? That means when something breaks down. So when plant life breaks down and turns into dirt, it decomposes, it rots. When that happens, chemical reaction takes place and it actually heats up. In the winter at our compost pile, you'll see steam coming off of it because there's heat coming from all of that stuff rotting.
That's cool.
Yeah. So they dig a pit, they fill it with vegetation, then they cover it with sand. It gets wet, then they cover it with sand, and it starts to build up heat. It takes about 4 months for the inside of the mound to heat up to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And throughout this period, he keeps a constant check on its temperature by using his tongue as a thermometer. So this bird, look, that's probably what this bird is doing. He sticks his tongue down into the pit to see if it's hot enough. Why does it have to be a certain temperature, do you think?
To make it warm enough for the animals?
What animals?
The animals that they're hunting for.
That's a good guess. Well, let's find out. When the mound is warm enough, he makes holes for his mate to lay her eggs in. So he'll like make a little hole with his beak or foot, and then the female will lay the egg into the hole. That's like in a hot, it's almost like they made this little oven. Or really, it's a incubator. It's an incubator. That's what it is.
Cool.
This she does over the course of several months, laying one egg every few days and covering it up again afterward. For the time it takes the eggs to hatch, the male bird continues to monitor the heat of the mound, adding or removing sand as necessary.
That is really different. I didn't even know those animals were alive.
Yeah. Here we go. So we're on the page that you had a question about. Like, what is that? Termites are in danger of getting drenched, and
Means
so they
getting
build.
wet?
Yeah, and so they build. Termites are often called white ants, but are actually more closely related to cockroaches. Some terms living in parts of West Africa where there is heavy rainfall have developed an ingenious way of keeping their nests dry. Ingenious means super smart and clever. The workers of a colony build one or more columns out of tiny pebbles of soil cemented together with saliva. Saliva would be their spit. The building begins below ground and extends above to a height of around 18 inches. Inside is an intricate system of living chambers, brood cells, food storage areas, and vents for controlling the temperature. The final touch is exceptional. Each column is capped with an umbrella-shaped roof, which serves to divert torrential rain and protect the termites living below. Divert means to ward off, to move to another location, to divert. Instead of the rain going down into their column, they make this cap, and it causes the rain to go off to the sides and drip off the sides of it.
But isn't the soil, like, if it gets wet, it droops down and gets into mud?
Oh, that's really good thinking. I don't know. Perhaps it's sandy soil that the rain just kind of goes into and it doesn't get all muddy. Maybe they purposefully build this on top of rocks so it doesn't sink down.